What is going on, brothers and sisters? Astrologer Eric Rosen here from Viking Rising Astrology. And this is a special horoscope that's going to be talking about a major 18-month cycle that we just entered into with the nodes shifting in astrology, that north and south node, those nodes that are those predictor points of when the solar and lunar eclipses, when they happen, it lets us know what we're moving away from and moving towards as a collective, and also as individuals too. And this isn't just any old ordinary nodal shift. This is the north node going from the very beginning of the zodiac of Aries to Pisces, the very end of the zodiac, and the south node as well, switching out of Libra and into Virgo. So, you know, the first 6 zodiac signs, Aries through Virgo, are more personal in general, whereas Libra through Pisces tends to be a little bit more connections to the transpersonal, you know, people, you know, things dealing like out in the world, connections, or even just the connection to God. Those first 6 signs we're usually trying to figure out the foundation of life, is a way to put it. And then the walls, the roof is more so that Libra through Pisces energy. And so, you know, when you look at this is that south node being that piece where it's like, okay, that's the karma, that's the thing that's going to manifest. You can't really get away from it. The real understanding of where the nodes come from is that it's the body of a dragon, that the south node is that body, and the north node is the head of the dragon, that you need both. You need the full system. You need the south node body that digests and releases things, shits things out, but you need that north node head to like eat and consume and like see and point and direct like what we're moving towards. And so they're access points, they move together. We need both of them. So, but we do got to watch for falling for just that seductive energy of the south node only, which would be the equivalent of a dragon running around like with no head, no aim, no direction, and just caught up in basically kind of being a lemming of sorts. And with it being that south node now in Virgo, it's like the lemming of just being a brick in the wall, you know, like just a product of the matrix reality, you know, not really thinking about the spiritual origins of its function and just only functioning to serve some, you know, calculated purpose of like mundane mathematics, if you will. Like I do this job, I do this routine, and just doing the same thing over and over and over again, almost like intentionally like thinking like Bill Murray Groundhog Day is like sexy or something and trying to like glam that up. And it's like, no, we're meant to witness those day-to-day Virgo routine patterns, cycles that we go through in our reality, just that mundaneness of it. This is our schedule and our health too, which I'll definitely get into. But it's more so, how do we go towards that north node in Pisces, where it's like that flow, that spiritual connection, using our intuition to develop our day-to-day routines and our schedule, not using the mind. Because why? Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, so we're going to be paying attention a lot to like not getting pulled and trapped into the mind so much these next 18 months, where everything is like trying to piece a puzzle together and like getting like off on, you know, collecting more puzzle pieces. You know, I had a client, I was like, watch out, you might feel like you want to go from solving 6 puzzles to 27 different ones, because all of a sudden, you know, it feels like that's the thing that you're wanting to do. And so we got to be careful to not let that conscious thinking mind try to make everything fit and be like, oh, this will work, and parsing together the reality to try to force efficiency mentally, because that's what Virgo does. It wants to build a system, wants to make things efficient. But that south node is saying you're just going to stress yourself out. And what does stress lead to? Dis-ease in the body. So health issues, definitely things that are originating in the mind. Rule number 1, I would say, for anyone's health, don't go straight to the symptoms and putting a bunch of band-aids on you. Go to the source, which is not just the mind, the conscious mind of that Virgo energy, but also the subconscious mind of the Pisces land of things, where you bridge both together, your conscious, your subconscious mind, and then you can get into the superconscious, which is that divine connection that Pisces teaches us, where we're meant to reach for the heavens, reach for God, reach for the angels, the spirit guides, especially with it being a North Node of Pisces. So, we can observe what are our thoughts that we're having, South Node in Virgo, and then Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces before Neptune was supposedly discovered with a telescope. So it's also deals with belief systems, developing better spiritual, compassionate, empathetic beliefs that take in a wider account of the reality, to observe patterns of thinking, subconscious stories, especially the beliefs, the stories that we create out of our patterns. We give it a story, we give it a belief, because that's the pattern that we're used to seeing in the reality. When this is about using the subconscious through your spiritual intuition and your lens of how you see your reality to go, well, I can change this. I can observe this reality differently. And the wild thing about it is that for some people, whether they do get hung up in their health and the symptoms versus using a more spiritual healing approach, right? Like maybe it's not so much about tweaking the food. Maybe it's like, go to the sound bowl practitioner, do the meditations, do the more spiritual things to heal from more of a top-down level. But the crazy thing is that with all this, perspective beliefs comes, whether you're a person that says there is no spoon, in terms of the matrix, versus nope, there's definitely a spoon, I can hold it. All perspectives are valid these next 18 months, because that's the North Node of Pisces. This is not about the South Node Virgo nitpicking people, like criticizing, self-criticism. That will be the fastest way to tank your energy, your relationships, especially since obviously those rely so heavily on communication. And so this is about, going more to this observer level. And it's not a bypass. It's not a spiritual bypass to do it, because we'll see it, but it's more so letting people have their struggles, being of service where we feel intuitively called to, or God, creator, the divine is directing us, that we're not there to solve problems for everyone, but that we're there to have compassion and be space holders, and to, let people work out their difficult stuff and not try to interfere karmically, is a really good way to put it. This brings up, you could say, religion in a way. North Node, especially with it going to be automatically conjuncting with Neptune now that it's in the sign, because this all happened already, as I'm recording this on January 11th. And so you got 18 months of this, and got Saturn approaching too. So there is this essence of, some people might really want to, I guess you could say, get barbaric a little bit. Hopefully this isn't too judgy, but just, doesn't want to look at any evidence and challenge cognitive dissonance, and just wants to double down on a religious structure of sorts. I think this is more about rising up to a spiritual belief that's more in integrity for you as a soul, that's going to be reflected in how well does it feel like your life is flowing. Do you really believe in a divine connection? How's your health? Like, how's your stress levels? How are you sleeping? These are all going to be really key indicators of whether or not the spiritual lens is fogged up or the belief system needs to shift and change. And so we all get that opportunity to really reach for that with that North Star of that North Node in Pisces. And, I think that as the symptoms of our reality come up, the stress, this could sometimes be like little accidents, like spilled milk, energy. At its worst, it's feeling like we're trapped in the mundane forever, and that our circumstances aren't going to change, and that we're just going through some like loop. That's a sure fire red flag for needing a deeper spiritual connection. But if we could take a step back, we can celebrate, hey, this is the feedback that, that we're getting, and then we can change it. And we can go through an expansion through taking a step back and choosing more of a beautiful spiritual way to view the reality. This definitely brings up forgiveness. This brings up grieving energy at this North Node of Pisces, because it is endings. It is, is really interesting how the nodes move backwards. We go from the beginning of the zodiac with the North Node in Aries to the end of it. And so the healing lens shifts too of these things, because before it was North Node in Aries where you got to take action, but you're healing at the same time at Chiron. Now it's just more so between you and God, and a commitment. Spiritual disciplines is a big one with Saturn there, with God, Creator, Divine on Neptune, to go, what do we need to release and surrender and detach and let go from? And the more so that we let go of how the reality is looking, those are the beautiful openings that, while it can feel like maybe on the surface, from the outside, someone might think you're not managing your reality well, or you're letting things fall apart, but actually you're preparing to let a better reality in. You're preparing to become the dreamer again. This brings up, it's okay if you find challenges daydreaming, dreaming of the dream vision that you want to have for your life, and making steps towards that, having a plan, having, concrete steps that are supported by your intuition, going into the meditations and creating those structures in the ethers before they're real of that dream, that even if that's hard to do in the waking reality, you could use lucid dreaming, you could use dream journaling of that Pisces energy to help see spiritually what really wants to come through. And, this is a time where those dream visions, where wishes are not impractical. I think that could be some of the criticism of that's not realistic. That's one of the first things we got to throw out of our vocabulary and belief system, because going there is automatically not allowing the magic of a message in a bottle to happen for your life, where spirit can't come through and support. This is not just that old analogy of God sending 3 chances to get you off the deserted island, and then refusing to believe that that is actually a symbol of synchronicity of a rescue. The boat, the plane that comes to get you, and you're like, no, God will save me, God will save me. And it's like, well, what are you waiting for? We all gotta be open to the magic of how synchronicities show up, and going, I don't know what this is. And it's kind of a Neo-White Rabbit type thing that we can do, and to just follow those things, even if it looks weird. So, great opportunities to pave the dreamscape during these times. And there's so many doors too, infinite doors. They might not all be real. Some of them might end up just being dreams that ultimately prove to be fiction, that didn't fit into the integrity of more of a spiritual sense of purpose of what we're here to commit to. But that's okay, because they provide the mirrors, even though it might feel like funhouse mirrors, of maybe subconsciously what we've absorbed, that we're letting go of, in order to get more to a defined understanding of what it is that we're really meant to bring in. And this is, we got to be careful about depression, that mundane reality piece, because it's only having the spiritual connection that's going to help with attachments to just the physical reality, like work, money situations, how we view the physical reality, how maybe no matter what you change, it feels like it's not in your favor because that spiritual connection's missing. And these nodes reminds me of the guy Cypher. He gets put into he wants to go back into the Matrix, and he's sitting there with Agent Smith, and he's negotiating, going back into the Matrix, and he's eating the steak, and he's like, oh, it tastes so good. He's like, but I know the steak's technically not real, but I don't care. My mind is telling me it's real, and ignorance is bliss. And so the South Node in Virgo brings up, or even the steak doesn't taste good. So think about that, where it's there's nothing in the physical reality alone without a true divine spiritual connection probably of a sense of service and connection to a greater good, can fill. Because that's what that guy was missing in that movie. He was not looking out for the divine plan. He was essentially going against it because he was in pain. He didn't like the reality that he was in. He felt like there wasn't enough of a harvest, essentially, which is what the South Node of Virgo can bring up. Oh, there's no harvest. The harvest wasn't good enough. I'll be honest, this could be the time where, manufacturing challenges, people feel like they can't get certain things that they rely on, but maybe got a little spoiled on too, that you can't get your whatever favorite flavor of like chips or sodas or whatever. I'm just using a crude example, not trying to offend anyone, but this is, it could be anything. It could be makeup. It could be, a pair of shoes that you like. It's just, and those things are all designed to be that beautiful spiritual Pisces awakening to go, wow, what am I doing? I'm so attached to materials that I'm actually having a crisis mode because I can't get my special drink or my special pair of shoes or this thing or that thing. I'm going to be very blunt and say this is, you all might not like this word and I'll break it down for you, but this is a retarded time to drink alcohol. Now, first, let me stress the word, what the origins of that word means. It just means to be behind. It means that there's a contraction and there's not an expansion. North Node of Pisces with Neptune, with Saturn, that wants to, grow up, move things forward. Jupiter is the modern ruler of Pisces, the traditional ruler, and it's in Gemini. We got to look at the facts. Is that alcohol actually helping your body, your liver? What are the ill effects of it? What's the spiritual dilemma that definitely creates, which I won't go into today, but, the retardation of things is to basically just be identified as someone that's falling behind. It's not about someone that is born with something that they can't change. It's like the understanding that word implies that you can advance forward, but there's something that actually is a choice that you're making consciously or subconsciously that you can't, in the case of how I'm using this. And of course there's some people, this could bring up all sorts of restrictive energies of why people can't advance. It could be educational, it could be, family stuff, demographics. I'm totally 100%. But the point is that I think we all have to be proponents during this time of not escaping in our individual lives. And if we see someone doing that, being compassionate and graceful, but also not bypassing and going, okay, the use of drugs and alcohol is not really going to get us to the best spiritual connection that we can have. So maybe there's some judgment and shaming in there, but that's a hill that I'm willing to die on, because the North Node in Pisces is absolutely all about raising our frequency. So we don't, I mentioned this is not about trying to solve great crazy systems and solutions to the physical reality of things. It would be it's like inspecting every light bulb, when really it's Clark Griswold and he's inspecting all the light bulbs when really he just had to flip the breaker. It's go to the source. Don't worry about the kinks in the hose. Go to the water source and see, what's going on there. There's that spiritual Pisces source that we can all go to, where if things are just not working or haywire, this is, what is the subconscious belief? How's your spiritual connection? This could be even the basics of how's your sleep quality, what types of media are you taking in is a huge one. Do you have a dream vision for your life that you're holding for yourself? All very big things to look at during this time. And, we're in a space where, because Neptune is the ruler of Pisces with the North Node, like all eyes really are on the heavens in a lot of ways, of the mercy of the divine and creation of this big ass shift portal that we're going through. And it's not that we haven't went through these before as a human race, it's just this is the next new wave of it. The Neptune and that North Node will officially meet on March 17th, and then the Neptune shortly after goes into Aries for testing out a brand new restart of this reality, especially when Saturn catches up this year. Of course, they'll retrograde back by the end of the year, so we're not done with it fully, but all in all, this North Node is in an odd way preparing us for dealing with what needs to end and developing a stronger spiritual connection to the divine so that we can prepare for a new start when that Neptune and Saturn especially meet in 0 degrees of Aries, and the reality has a full-blown facelift, and it can look like a facelift that's like wasn't planned well, or that's in progress, or maybe going backwards. This can feel like in a weird way that like we're going like backwards in time. But this is why we develop these spiritual connections. So it's not about getting hung up on how are things looking in the physical reality of it. It's about how do we move through those stresses and those challenges. And I didn't even mention, but it's like Virgo's that busy-bodied energy too, of work. Of course I mentioned schedule, routine, work, but the busy nature of it, like how do we work through that? Maybe just wanting to be stimulated, wanting to be busy, and find more silence and peace and spiritual flow, just the quiet connection of spirit, that hermit energy with that North Node of Pisces. And so that's what's the ironic thing, is that actually we can get more done and change more in our reality by studying our thoughts and our subconscious mind in quiet reflection moments, especially ones that allow Spirit Divine to come in to help us with those reflections, to be pensive and not to ask a million questions, to try to get immediate answers and being like a crazy, journaler person that's like asking questions and then trying to get answers. This would be more time for like free write journaling, free flow journaling, even if it's just to get the, crazy negative thoughts out on the paper in order to mine the gold of what is a better spiritual belief to move things forward. So that's how this is looking to me as an astrologer, doing this for, I guess, going on 7+ years now. And that's the collective lens of it. For those of you that do want to just drop a purchase price of $5 to see what is going on for your sun rising. And if you like to look at your moon sign, I'm down with that, especially with it being a North Node of Pisces. You can click on that link down below for looking at what does this nodal shift mean for your sign for the next 18 months. And I want to stress the point, this isn't the end all be all of the astrology for everyone, because there's so many things shifting. There's just so much astrology to get to, but this is at least a big component of it, of like where you, for your sign, moving away from and that reality of things and moving towards a more of a spiritual place. Like where does that show up in your life? Knowing like what the key places of where it's going to show up, giving you that guidance that I best know how as an astrologer, so that you don't get hung up in the karmic piece of the crazy reality shifting, changing of it, and go more into this beautiful spiritual place where no matter what level of spiritual path you feel like you're on, whether you're consider yourself a newbie or you're curious, you're dipping your toe in the water, you're a vet, you feel like the sage elder, that there's this North Node brings up, there's always another beautiful spiritual level, another beautiful experience that you can have, especially ones that you can, bake bread with Saturn there and actually make something out of that. So it's not, just about having a spiritual connection and experience. It's also like, how do you also, create your reality with that too? So I think this is for everyone, regardless of what part of your path that you feel that you fall on. So if you want to get that for your sun, rising, even moon sign, click on that link down below. It's just $5. I will email you the recording within a few hours and give you all the good, beautiful login information. Of course, I ask that you stay in integrity with that Saturn and Pisces. Only you know that for sure, but to not share it with anyone, to keep it, private to you. And then if you know a friend, a family member that's interested, have them, spend their $5. And, I love doing astrology. I love channeling astrology. And, I love the visions that are coming through and how I'll add layers to how, I've constructed my business as an astrologer and a metaphysician, intuitive coach. And so I call myself celestial shaman, taking people to those spiritual connections. But it's always nice to be rewarded for the service-based work. I know there's a lot of astrologers out there that, put out content, free content, but, this is sacred knowledge that astrologers come up with, and it has really tremendous value. And so I just want to speak on behalf of all astrologers. If you ever feel like there's a connection and an opportunity to, in any way, small or bigger, invest in that astrologer, that channeler that's putting out information, especially if it's making an impact in your life. The value exchange for the service is a great way to give a sort of, you could call it picnic basket, if you will, of a place to house your appreciation of the change and the information and things that come in. And it also shows that you really value the information that you're getting by actually applying it, because that's going to be the big thing too, is that head of that North Node in Pisces can continuously just want to eat and eat and eat, and the spiritual consumption in some ways that's already been happening. But that South Node piece is like not about getting lost in that spiritual space of whether it's like information or your own spiritual experience. It's finding a way to still come back to the practical reality, to integrate it, to focus it in a way that it's useful, that it has utility. Because that Mercury, that is that ruler of Virgo, will very much want to think that it's getting ahead or getting smarter, when actually it's weighing things down karmically. Too much intellect, too much information. You want to be able to take the information from a bigger point of view with that North Node of Pisces, and then know how to utilize it. And your intuition is going to very much help you with the present moment of when to do that, because South Node of Virgo can absolutely want to, sort of shit on the present moment or take us out of it, say it doesn't look good, or feel like we're telling us, having a thought that we're in the present moment, but really we're technically 2 seconds behind and 3 seconds ahead already. And we're in these like weird 5-second windows, and there's just too much going on. And it's just, taking a bigger, wider lens of things. So if you want to get that special for that sun rising sign, click on that link down below. And as always, if you want to get a personal reading, go deeper into your 2025, click on that link down below as well. All right, I'll see you next time.